Icons. All games and genres have them. Iconic weapons and abilities, that is. Boomer shooters and double-barrel shotguns are basically synonymous. Fighting games have moves like the Dragon Punch, Hadouken, Electric Wind God Fist, or pulling out your Ethernet cable. Blades of Chaos, Hidden Wrist Blades, Bunker Swords, Master Swords. Hell, nowadays I can barely look at a crowbar without feeling extremely blue-balled. Thanks, Valve. So all of these games have their iconic weapons and abilities, but what about MOBAs? MOBA games are known for having hundreds, sometimes even thousands of abilities and spells. And while that means there's a lot to pick from, in my opinion, there's only one true answer. One ability and character that transcends them all. This one character is responsible for birthing an entire new archetype in the MOBA genre, and that is of the hooker character. Don't laugh. And when it comes to iconic hooker characters in MOBAs, there's only one true answer. And let me just say, he likes fresh meat.
Pudge is here. Yes. Fresh meat.
I'm walking up. Nice.
So much meat, so little time.
Today we're talking about Pudge the Butcher and his iconic meat hook. The most played hero in all of Dota and arguably the most influential MOBA character that has ever existed. Even if you, dear viewer, have never actually played Dota, you most certainly have felt this guy's influence. Devourer from Heroes of Newerth, Roadhog from Overwatch, Bebop from Deadlock. Hell, there's even like 5 or 6 hook characters in League of Legends itself. Now that's what I call recycling. This big boy is responsible for a lot of the mainstays within these other games, and I just want to talk about how and why that came to be. Because while Pudge might invoke various emotions depending on who you are, ranging from frustration, exasperation, and even joy, there is one thing that is completely undeniable. Pudge's hero design was so goddamn fun. It transcends just Dota and it trickled down into all the other MOBAs and all related games moving forward. And as well, this video is just an excuse for me to talk about Pudge in general because he's just an extremely fun hero and I'll take any excuse to talk about this game and its heroes. And since Pudge is Dota's most popular hero by far, yeah, I got a lot of things to say. My name's Argonax the Valve Guy, thank you for clicking on this video, and if you think I have earned it, I would love to request for your like and subscription to the channel, and dare I even say, your patronage to my YouTube membership and your membership on my Patreon. Massive thanks again to my current supporters who helped me get ever closer to my 2026 goal of going full-time on YouTube. All of you guys are awesome. Back to talking about this fatty, and for once, I'm not actually talking about your mother. Let's get the basic context out of the way for those unfamiliar because for some reason, tons of non-Dota players continue to watch my videos. Again, thank you for doing that. Pudge is a strength hero from Dota 2. His signature ability is his meat hook. It's a long-range skill shot that deals a ton of damage if it hits an enemy, and it drags the target back to Pudge, regardless if it's an enemy hero, ally hero, creep, rune, it doesn't matter who, Pudge will drag him back right to his tender embrace. There's a lot of nitty-gritty details and little intrinsicies about the hook that we'll tackle bit by bit as the video progresses. Though keep in mind everything that I'm showing right now on screen is the in-game detailed explanation. That's a lot of words, right? Yeah, take a look at how long the description is on the wiki page. Yeah, I ain't reading all that. But put simply, Pudge is a gank-heavy tank of a hero whose ability to pick off and isolate enemy heroes is almost unparalleled. It's a simple game plan that's endlessly satisfying. Walk around the map, look for enemy, yoink them towards you, kill them, rinse and repeat.
Bounty is there, bounty is there.
Oh, eat him alive. Shit on him.
Nice.
This simple and satisfying game plan is the reason why he is actually Dota 2's most played hero. I think it says a lot about the Dota 2 player base that when you have a selection of cool samurais, dwarven snipers, dudes with gigantic swords, and waifus out the wazoo, the most popular hero is this guy. However, I must also state that despite Pudge being the most played hero of Dota 2, you would think that he would be a mascot of the game, right? Unfortunately not, because Valve doesn't seem to want to put his face on any of the official Dota 2 posters. They seem to prefer the more marketable heroes like Juggernaut or Legion Commander. If you ask me, this is bigoted behavior coming from Valve. Because let's be real, we all know the reason why they don't want to show off their most popular hero.
Oi!
It's plain to see.
Whatever.
It's cause he's British.
Have I got juice on my chins.
When you load into a Dota 2 match and someone insta-picks Pudge, they are loudly announcing to the entire lobby, I got big balls, and I don't care if I miss my hooks or not. My inconvenience to you is none of my concern. Yeah, anyone who's ever had a Pos 5 hard support Pudge can relate.
No! Okay.
I'm gonna destroy every single.
I'll explain the rest of his kit in such a way that you deadlock purists can understand. I'll flash the spells on screen if you want to pause the video and read them. Or not, I'm not your dad. Yet. All of you deadlock players complain that Bebop is bullshit. Well, just you wait until I tell you about Pudge. Pudge and Bebop both have hooks. The main difference is, Pudge's hook deals pure damage, and a lot of it. He doesn't need bombs to deal the damage. Imagine Venator's pure damage integrated within the Pudge hook. He's also got Victor's Pain Aura, and his ultimate is almost identical to Mo and Krill's, except number 1, Pudge's ultimate ignores spell immunity. Dota's version of Unstoppable, Black King Bar, that doesn't stop the Fat Man's ult. And number 2, unlike Mo and Krill, Pudge will gain infinite health regardless if he ults or not. His innate means that as long as an enemy hero dies around him, you gain infinitely stacking and scaling health. In fact, one of my favorite things to do other than your mother is letting Pudge AFK and kill targets in the demo mode of Dota 2, and seeing how high his HP bar can go. In fact, let me satisfy the zoomers in the audience by having Pudge idly kill heroes, and let's just see how high we can pump those numbers by the end of the video. I left this running for like a really long time. You guys better subscribe for the stress that I had to put my PC under. As you can see here, various parts of Pudge's kit has been remixed into various other characters across various other video games, Deadlock not excluded. But out of all of the things within Pudge's kit, it's the hook that is the most recognizable part about him, and it's what most players associate with Pudge and MOBAs. However, before I go any further, there is a tiny disclaimer that I need to address. It's not about Pudge and MOBAs, but more so about games in general. You see, using hooks in video games isn't exactly something that Pudge invented. Mortal Kombat had Scorpion with his iconic Get Over Here hook. Hell, I would even argue that Scorpion's hook is technically more iconic and more widely recognized than any of the other MOBA hookers. There's a reason that when people hear the word Get Over Here, they think of this guy, not this guy. But there's two things I want to note. Number 1, more MOBA hooker characters can trace their origin, their heritage back to Pudge. In other words, more characters were created by other game companies because of Pudge rather than Scorpion. Scorpion didn't exactly start a new archetype of fighting game characters. Yes, there's fighting game characters out there that also have a hook ability, they have their own version of a Get Over Here. However, when it comes to being a direct inspiration to their respective genres, I would still say that Pudge has the Yellow Ninja beat. Keep in mind, this isn't a question of MOBAs versus fighting games, not at all. What a character means to one genre is different than what another character means to their genre. But if you want some cold hard facts, here it is. I love fighting games and the fighting game community. However, it is not exactly a controversial thing to say that MOBAs are far more popular than fighting games, even at their peaks. I can't exactly find reliable data on this, but just going off the vibes, if you count the amount of players across both genres' lifetimes, how many players played these games? The MOBA player base eclipses fighting games. Again, please don't take this the wrong way. I love fighting games. I play them all the time. But MOBAs are in another league of their own. Even FeedX, a prolific fighting game content creator, admits that Deadlock has a bigger player base than all other current fighting games combined.
It's a completely new IP and in an arguably completely new genre. While it's still an alpha, it has more players than every fighting game combined.
And when MOBAs can consistently get hundreds of characters, it's pretty hard to claim the title of most recognizable spell, and despite that, I still think the hook ability reigns king. And while Pudge's hook might have drawn some inspiration from Scorpion, I would say the legacy of the MOBA hook lives on in Pudge and not so in Scorpion. I'm gonna switch to the next topic now before the fighting game fans in the audience rip me apart. Transition slide. Dota 2 is a sequel, meaning that something must have come before. Dota All-Stars, meaning that there was a version of Pudge back then as well. Listen, this segment isn't going to be a proper history lesson about Pudge. If that's what you're looking for, I would highly recommend Dennis the Tall's video about him. It's an older video, but it still holds up extremely well. But TLDR, Pudge was added in Dota All-Stars version 5.10. But his original version was this weird summoner tank thing. Kinda like how Undying is nowadays, but also not really. They were still figuring things out. It wasn't until version 5.76 that he became the Hook Boy that we all know today. These two patches, by the way, were 6 months apart. That's a lot of number changes in a short time span. Nowadays, we can barely hope for a number patch in 6 months. Shameless plug to my Dota 2 patch video if you want to learn more. Point is, Pudge's foundation was more or less set all the way back in 2004, and his core identity has primarily remained the same. Sure, he's had number changes and shifts every now and then, but the Fat Man has always been the same. However, when it comes to modern Pudge, there are some semi-recent changes that I feel that are relevant enough that I need to mention. His old Aghanim Shard ability allowed him to vor his teammates, saving them and healing them in the process. It was really annoying to deal with. Pudge was already an amazing tank and gank monster, and now he's also a save character? I think that's a step too far. It was really funny when you combined this thing with Lifestealer's old Aghanim Scepter upgrade, which allowed him to eat another ally, and then Lifestealer himself could jump inside Pudge. Pudge already had someone else inside him, meaning you could have 4 heroes in one. 5 if you include Snapfire, Ricky, or Phoenix Aghanim Scepter. Another semi-recent, and the word semi-recent is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, was the fact that Pudge's Rot, his second ability, used to be fatal, meaning he was able to pull a Jeffrey Epstein. What do I mean when I say pulling a Jeffrey Epstein? Yeah, that's right, eating children. Pudge could rot himself to death, denying enemies of all gold and experience. It was really freaking annoying. Hero self-denial is a mechanic that only a few heroes were able to do back in the day. Other honorable mentions include Abaddon and Techies. Ah yes, Techies. Another hero who was most definitely on the island.
Because they got a triple kill. Who was that?
During the initial batch of Dota 2 heroes, a lot of them were kinda carbon copies of their Dota 1 counterparts. I mean, just take a look at all the initial batch of heroes and you can see that they were pretty damn close and similar to one another. Sure, there were some exceptions here and there, but the early Dota 2 heroes didn't really try to deviate too much because they wanted to have some sort of familiarity with the old Dota 1 players. And Pudge initially was no exception. He looks like a more refined version of his Warcraft Abomination counterpart. However, there is one little thing that Valve changed when it came to porting Pudge into Dota 2. Outside of his appearance, which did have some minor changes over the years but mostly stayed the same, the biggest thing that they changed with Pudge coming into Dota 2 was his personality. Whereas Pudge's voice back in Dota 1 was just the Abomination's voice, thus basically just like a big zombie that didn't really think all that much.
Let's go. Random tap. Kill.
Didn't really have a lot going for it in terms of the personality department. Dota 2 Pudge, on the other hand, is absolutely bursting with personality. They made him more jolly. They gave him a thick Cockney accent. And sure, at the end of the day, he's still a bloodthirsty, murdering, fat flesh monster thing. Is Pudge actually dead in his lore? Is he undead? I actually have no clue. Is this guy actually considered a zombie, or is he just like a very Frankenstein insane person? I have no clue. Please let me know in the comment section down below. Point is, just listening to Pudge's voice lines does such a great job of adding an extra layer of depth to him that it truly brought a somewhat generic character, that being of the Abomination, to having such a, well, for a lack of a better word, just fun personality, I guess. And you can hear him being voiced by the amazing John Patrick Lowry, the same voice actor who does the sniper from TF2.
So much meat, so little time. Chin chopper, I'll flay you now. When I'm through with these vermin, they'll be fit for a pie. Sweet breads ain't sweet, and they ain't bread. And they need a butcher, not a baker.
This is gonna be a real piece of piss, you bloody fruit shop owners!
Now, apparently back in the day, some people actually didn't like Pudge's Cockney voice, which is absurd to me, but you know, I guess everyone's entitled to an opinion. So for those who dislike Pudge's voice acting, allow me to do some voiceover work for Pudge, and I don't know, you can mod this into the game if you want. I bring the slaughter to the lambs. Fresh meat. Get over here. Have I got juice on my chins? press the subscribe button. Nothing better than a nice raw liver. I think I popped the last of my button. Circling back to his appearance, which also describes his physique, they gave Pudge this little like swoopy, old-fashioned like curl haircut thing. I don't exactly know what it's called, but it's cool. It's cute. You wouldn't expect such a bloodthirsty and grotesque character to have such a haircut, but hey, again, it's contrast. It makes the character more interesting. But enough of the superficial stuff. We're here to talk about the hook. So let's talk about it. When you really think about it and distill it to its most simple parts, all MOBAs, and even hero shooters for that matter, are just remixes of one another. The genre has been around for over 20 years. So thus, it's really hard to make truly unique spells and ability without drawing some inspiration from MOBAs that came before. And whereas other abilities might draw comparisons and parallels and just sometimes even straight up copy one another one-to-one, without fail, the hooker archetype is a mainstay for MOBAs and all adjacent gaming genres. And given the fact that Dota was the first true MOBA, none of that Aeon of Strife, no spells looking Dota was first, and thus Dota has many abilities that were shared by other games. League Pendragon incident. Fuck Pendragon. Nowadays, all MOBAs have the spin spell, the long range shoot spell, the execute dunk spell, the please report me spell. Even if we isolate it to just Dota, you have extremely flashy spells like Sunstrikes, Black Hole, Finger of Death, Echo Slam, Omnislash. Many of these spells well known, popular, flashy in their own right, and yet the simple hook is infinitely more recognizable than any of these spells. It's iconic. Simple as that. Just like in real life. Simple shapes are the ones most widely recognized by people, and the silhouette of a hook is as simple and as recognizable as it gets. In-game, when you're playing Pudge and the hook lands, you feel like a god. Valve did such a good job with the animations and the sound effects. Just listen to that hook landing sound effect. Ooh, makes a grown man act unwise, if you get what I'm saying. When the hooks land, everyone knows you are a threat to be taken seriously. However, when they miss though, you become the target of an organized hate campaign by your own team. And the enemy team, of course. Trash talk, flaming, tips, reports, you name it, you will receive it if you miss your hooks. And it's not just missing hooks on enemies that's gonna catch you heat, since you can also save allies by hooking them. If you miss those allies, well, it's gonna look something like this. That's also not mentioning that you can accidentally hook creeps as well, which is extremely embarrassing to the point that Pudge himself acknowledges whenever you fuck up and hook a creep by accident.
Skin you for that. I meant to do that. Oi! Bloody creeps!
Sure, the hook will one-shot almost all creeps, and the excuse Pudge players will give was that, oh, I was aiming for the catapult that entire time. Don't listen to them. That's cope. They're bad. Report them. And actually, let's do a little thought experiment. Think about it for a second. Is there any other spell in Dota that gets you as much backlash as the hook? If you fuck up an RP or Black Hole or Chronosphere, yeah, sure, you're gonna get tipped, you're gonna get flamed. Yeah, but all of those are like long cooldown spells. But the hook? A basic ability? It's just like any other spell in Dota. Its cooldown isn't particularly long, and despite that, it gets you so much hate if you fuck up. Don't believe me? Load into your game and start whiffing hooks on purpose. That player behavior and conduct score ain't gonna remain high for much longer. The point is, it's simple, and there's beauty in its simplicity. In fact, in Dennis the Tall's video about Pudge, second reminder, please go watch it, it's fantastic, link down below, he talked about how Pudge's hero designer, Makis, who is a super important figure in Dota 2's history, equal to other figures like Ice Frog and Yule, he talks about how Pudge's hook was his pride and joy when it comes to game design.
He wrote in a Reddit AMA that he was most proud of Meat Hook due to it being the first ability of its kind in MOBAs, along with the relative ease of programming it. Nakis wouldn't know the impact of creating Meat Hook at the time, but it would be a prominent staple of Dota and create its own archetype of characters in other games.
I don't think it can be understated just how big of an impact this supposedly easy spell had on the genre of MOBAs as a whole, because this relatively simple, straightforward spell became the center point, the genre ground zero of so many other characters moving forward. If you need more convincing, think about it like this. If Dota was the way it was right now, but Pudge did not exist. In fact, the whole concept of a hook character did not exist. Do you really think Dota would be the same? I don't think it would. If we're being realistic, if Pudge never had his hook to begin with, I don't think Dota would have lasted this long. I'm being completely honest. Many people who play Dota never even play Pudge, but they just know the reverence and, I guess, fear that they have of the hook. And it's for a good reason because, well, it's an icon. It's an icon of Dota 2. Now, like I mentioned before, there are other hook-inspired abilities in other MOBAs. League of Legends, Smite, Pawn, Deadlock, Overwatch, even the award-winning dating sim, Dragon Age Inquisition. All of them have some difference from the original hook, with tiny or major mechanic remixing every now and then to make them all different and unique. But out of all of the various hooks that I can think of, the only hook that I think is a true successor, or at least stays closest to the original Pudge hook, has to be Bebop's hook from Deadlock. But even then, there's still some differences between the two. For example, like I mentioned earlier, Bebop's hook deals no damage, whereas Pudge does. The two heroes are both the hooker characters, but they operate under different rules and paradigms. I'm not gonna get into it. Point is, there's a lot of hookers out there, and they're all wonderful. I'm making these your mom jokes way too fucking easy, aren't I? Naturally, as the most played hero of Dota, Pudge enjoys a wide range of cosmetic items. From high-quality sets, incredible immortals, amazing arcanas, phenomenal personas, the fat man is truly spoiled for choice. However, one notable cosmetic that I want to talk about is the Dragonclaw hook. Looking at it now, it doesn't look all that remarkable. That's because it's one of the oldest cosmetics in this game. But this hook, this Dragonclaw hook, served as a flashpoint for the Dota 2 cosmetic market. Because for whatever reason, I can't exactly tell you why, this was the first item in all of Dota that just got an insane Steam market price tag. Because back in the day, and even now, this thing sells for hundreds of dollars. Just taking a look at its various price ranges back in the day, yeah, this thing was ridiculous. I don't even know why, it barely does anything. Nowadays, modern Dota 2 items can easily eclipse this thing in terms of quality, but despite that, it's still unbelievably pricey. Now, I wish I could give you a proper, conclusive assessment of the item, but alas, unless I buy it, I can't give you a proper verdict. Argonauts YouTube memberships and Patreon. Help me go full-time on YouTube. Do that, I'll buy the claw, and I'll use it as a tax write-off. Thanks. Personally, if I had to give a reason as to why this thing had such a ridiculous price tag was, well, number one, because of Pudge's popularity, and two, being heavily associated with Dendy, the closest thing that we had to a John Dota in the pro scene of early Dota 2.
You wish it were Dendy.
Isn't it?
It can't be.
And while I won't go into detail about Pudge and Dendy and the early days of competitive Dota 2, they made an entire documentary about that, in case you didn't know. Link below, I guess, even though this thing has like 1 million views and you're watching a shitty Argonax video with like, what, a few thousand at best. Point is, this player and this hero were closely tied together, and they made for some of the most memorable plays of early Dota 2. In fact, probably the most memorable play of Dota in general is the Legend of the Fountain hook.
Tong Fu is going to continue to push. They're not done. Mech still hasn't even been used. There's a hook. How? Brought all the way back to the base. Cleaned up by the fountain.
Yeah, you guys have probably seen this clip before, if not used by me, then by other Dota 2 content creators. It's ridiculous. The fact that pro players, and well, Dendy more specifically, was willing to use this exploit, because that's what this was. This was an exploit, while playing the biggest Dota 2 tournament of the year was just... It's funny and ridiculous in equal measure. For a super rough explanation as to why this happened, Chen, this hero right here, had an ability back in the day that would allow him to send allies back to your base, back to your fountain after an initial delay. So what they did was, Chen would cast this spell on Pudge, wait out the delay, and just before the spell took effect, you threw out your hook. And as the hook travels in the air, Pudge gets teleported back to your base. But the hook is still flying, and when it snags a target, it doesn't bring you to where Pudge was, it'll bring you to where he is currently, which is, of course, your base. And thus, the Fountain Hook was born. It didn't really stick around for very long because, obviously Valve fixed it. But seeing this ballsy stunt being pulled in the biggest Dota 2 tournament of the year was something else. And if that didn't scream all-star player, all-star hero, and all-star ability, I don't know what does. So it doesn't matter if it's in your pub games or the biggest competitive Dota tournaments, Pudge will be there. And while I wish I could give you more insight to the competitive scene of Dota and how it relates to Pudge, I have to admit that I'm a bit of a Neanderthal when it comes to competitive Dota because it's just something that I'm not knowledgeable about. But regardless of whether you're talking about pubs or esports, Pudge and his hook has had a substantial influence on the history and I guess overall image of Dota. Whether you're a fresh install player, a person who's only been playing for a week, a veteran of 10 years, or a seasoned competitive player who's been around since the days of Dota 1, everybody knows, fears, and respects the hook. And in many ways, it's one of those things that brings the entire Dota 2 community together regardless of your experience in the game. Just as Dota's heritage comes from custom games from Warcraft 3, Dota 2 would continue that tradition. Hence, Pudge Wars was one of the early, popular custom games of Dota 2. Mind you, people were playing this game mode before the Dota Reborn update, meaning that playing and installing all of these custom game modes was a lot more technical than it was today. Now, all you have to do is a literal button click to install these game modes, whereas before it was a little more involved. The premise was extremely simple. Everyone plays Pudge, there's a river or some sort of gap separating all the players, you all have hooks. Simple. It's like a version of Dota Deadly Dodgeball, I guess. It's still a lot of fun today, and I would highly recommend anyone interested in trying it out. You guys want to know something funny? The fact that you haven't pressed subscribe yet. But other than that, it's the fact that I am a position 3 main in Dota 2, meaning I play a lot of tank characters, and despite that, Pudge is definitely one of my least played heroes in this game, and Jesus Christ, my win rate is, for lack of a better word, dog shit. But funnily enough, in Dota's sister game, Deadlock, Bebop, their resident hooker, is actually my most played hero in that game. And not just that, I would even go as far as to say that I'm a pretty decent Bebop player. And I say that as someone who barely plays shooter games. I've heard some people refer to my play stats as unhinged, and I should touch grass, whatever the fuck that means. So why do I play one MOBA's hooker character whereas I completely ignore the other? If I'm being completely honest, I think it's just the fact that Bebop's hooks are extremely spammable. With the right items, you can get that cooldown to like, 8 seconds or something stupid like that. I don't know, this is just cope. Apparently a lot of people hate Bebop players, which I think is some bullshit. Although if I'm being honest, I should definitely play more Pudge. MMR be damned. Pudge and Meat Hook mean a lot of things to a lot of people. The hook itself is such a defining aspect of Dota that it legitimately morphs people's playstyle and, dare I even say, psychology when they see that there is a Pudge in their game. Yes, Pudge is Dota's most played hero, but not only that, he lives rent-free in the minds of all Dota players. It doesn't matter who you are, you all have your own thoughts, your own opinions, your own experiences with Pudge and his wonderful Meat Hook. So, in order to end this video, I just wanted to do a quick little montage from people from the official Argonax server, which you should definitely join. We hang out there quite often. We have community in-house games, and we also post a lot of normal, funny, family-friendly content. I asked people in my Discord to give a brief statement about their thoughts on Pudge, and I'll allow their words to end this video. Thank you again so much for watching, Internet Wanderer. You guys are amazing, and I'll catch you all later. Do the YouTube things.
He smells bad.
I wish he wasn't banned 24/7.
These absolute fucking morons. Oh, sorry. Pudge players always think they're hot shit, even though they miss 99% of their hooks and sit on their fat fucking ass.
A hero with a basic ability that always gets someone killed.
Pudge is stinky.
Professional hooker.
I'm gonna first pick Pudge and sit in the trees and miss every hook.
He say, let's get intimate, and then followed by he say the N-word.
Pudge is S tier, but I say the fuck out of my way when I'm trying to hook.
He hooked me and I died.